So today's topic is about ways we can provide opportunities for your sons to make friends and also help them develop some of the skills that are necessary for having friendships. Friendships are very important, and they'll be increasingly important for your sons over the next number of years. A lot of times you'll see some changes as they go, particularly next year in 8th grade. But I think through adolescence is all of us probably remember, is not always the easiest time. Sometimes friendships are the main problem during adolescence, but also they often are the thing that keeps them going at times. They lean on their friends more so again as they get a little bit older. And I think being at a school like BC High throws extra challenges at the boys, and why they need their friendships even more. For a lot of our guys, they have a lot more work here and a lot busier days than their friends back at home in school. And sometimes that idea of, hey, I've got more work to do is a challenge, an extra challenge when they realize maybe their friends in their home schools don't have as much, and don't have the commute, and don't have some of those other things. But also, there'll be times, and I hope there'll be times, when BC High is going to challenge them. And maybe it'll be disappointing at times, so whether it's a really difficult homework assignment they're doing, whether it's doing poorly on an assignment or test, or maybe it's non-academic, maybe it's getting cut from the team, or something just didn't go right with their group. And there are days that, because of various issues, they're not necessarily going to want to come to school. But they do come to school, and they do want to come to school because their friends are here. And their friends keep them going. A lot of times when you listen to seniors as they get all nostalgic at the age of 17 or 18. But they talk about how their friends and how their friends about them through difficult times. This is long before they ever know what a difficult time is. But it is part of that. So, and of course, the other great thing about being at a school like BC High, where the students come from so many different places, is friendships open up new worlds to them. Whether it's a boy coming from 45 minutes away in the suburbs makes a good friend with a boy in the city, gets to see what the city looks like, or vice versa, but they open them up to just new places, new ideas. Sometimes they meet a boy that comes from a very different culture. They go to that house. I remember a couple of years ago, a friend of ours, whose son was here, said, he went to a birthday party, and they were coming from Kansas or something like that. I went to a birthday party before he was Vietnamese, and he came back talking about how fascinating it was to him, and how interesting, and just had lots of stories to tell. So friendships do open a new world. They're also the things that will get them to try new stuff, whether it's the friend who convinces the boy to go off across country after he got cut from soccer, ends up being a varsity cross country runner for throughout high school, or the boy who convinces his friend to go on a Kairos retreat when he's a junior or senior, or maybe go to on a Hyde Center trip to Tanzania or Buenos Aires or something like that. So I do think these friendships are crucial. Now this time of year, I often have 7th grade parents come in and call me, call the guidance counselor, and say, my son seems very happy at BC High, but he has no friends. He's not bringing any friends home on the weekend. He's not calling a kid up and inviting him over, anything like that. And that is absolutely typical for our 7th graders. And I usually say, look, I see him at lunch. He's sitting at a table. He's very happy. He's engaged. He's got lots of friends he goes with, and that tends to be, for most 7th graders, not all, their routine. And the thing I remind parents of is just how social their week is. Some of the guys, their social hour starts at 6:30 when they get on the train, and they take a 45-minute train ride with 5, 10, 20, 50 kids that they know. They come to school, if you come here, and you probably might have walked down the breezeway in the morning, they're all sitting there, and they're oftentimes talking to each other, they're doing homework, they're sharing homework in appropriate ways, sometimes inappropriate ways. But they're doing it, and then they go to class. or they go to homeroom, they hang out with homeroom, they go to class. And in class, in many classes, they're working with partners or with groups for most of the day. Lunch, they have a social. Then they go to recess, and there's all different rules at recess and social things and stuff like that. And they go through the day, and they go back on the train and have that same group or different group, because the different guys take different trains at different times of day. And by the time they get to Friday afternoon, most of our boys, particularly our 7th grade boys, are socially exhausted. They're done. And so when you say, why don't you have a friend over this weekend? And they say, no, I don't think so. That tends to be what every other 7th grader is doing. And the other thing they're doing, many of them, and I see a lot of people nodding, so I must be saying something right. And then they also have that complication. Many of them are still trying to stay in touch with their friends they had who didn't come to BC High with them. So that's totally typical. You'll see, for most of the boys, it'll change at some point in time in 8th grade. You know, some not until 9th grade. Again, I don't worry, and I wouldn't worry as a parent, as long as they, are engaged and they seem to have some groups. And we have I think we have one student who sits by himself in the cafeteria. But he does that because that's he wants to sit by himself. That's his personality, and we understand it, and I check in with him every day. And he's very happy like that. And then some people do need that alone, more solitude. And he needs his break. He doesn't wait till Friday afternoon to get a break. He needs a break every day at lunchtime. But most of them, we watch around and there are tables and they're talking and they're engaging. We don't let them bring their iPads to lunch because we do want them to actually have a eye-to-eye contact at times and talk to each other. So, but if you're worried about your son, because he's not talking about anybody, feel free to call Jen or call me and sort of give you, check in with the email the advisors and that. Rarely do we have too many guys to work with. If we can, there are some guys that do struggle, we can help them out with that as well. But we are going to talk today about just how do we help them to make some friends. And again, I think boys are pretty simple when it comes to making friendships. They usually make friendships by doing things with other boys. So part of our thing, our plan is to provide opportunities for them. And again, they have a lot of opportunities just built into the class day, working groups and stuff like that, but other non-academic opportunities for them to make friends. And the other piece, of course, is there are some skills they need, not just to make friends, but to continue the friendship. And the skill set does change or matures as they go through middle school. So some of the guys who've had the skills they need for sort of elementary school friendships. Some guys naturally transition, mature in that way, and get those skills they need for sort of more adolescent friendship. Some guys struggle with that. Again, friendships can become pretty challenging. So our guidance counselors do a lot of work with that. Jan Hornby and Tracy Domitz is our 8th grade guidance counselor this year. So I'm going to turn this over to Jen. She can talk about some of the things they do to help students who they need to work on those social skills.
So yeah, just a couple maybe tips and reminders for all of you as far as what we do here to help them build the skills in order to make friends, and also what you can do at home to kind of facilitate some of that. So what we think it all boils down to is this notion of emotional intelligence. I know it's kind of a buzzword these days. We hear about it a lot. And that's really just, boys need to understand their own emotions, but really they need to understand and recognize the emotions of others. So it goes back to this whole, learning empathy, understanding how to put yourself in someone else's shoes. Those are the key skills in order to make some meaningful friendships here. They begin to understand at this age, really, that it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And so we've talked to the boys a lot about this and recognizing, again, what is the tone behind some of the things, some of the interactions you're having with your friends. Perhaps you're misreading some of the communications between the boys. And that does come up a lot. Talk a little more about that. What's difficult, I think, these days is that, those interactions are happening more and more electronically through texting and Snapchat. And so we do want to offer a lot of opportunity here for the boys to have those face-to-face interactions, to build those skills, to build that empathy and understanding of someone else's emotions, and also those nonverbal communication and the body language. So again, all throughout the school day, the boys are interacting and learning those skills. They learn by observing others and then sort of practicing here within the school day. The best thing we can do, I think, to help them develop, again, is just offering a large variety of places. And so Mr. Goso will talk in a few minutes, too, about what we're doing here as far as extracurricular activities and time in the school day for them to practice all those skills. Another thing that we've talked a lot about is just problem solving and peer conflict. And so the boys need to learn these problem solving skills in order to maintain friendships. It's much better if they can kind of figure things out on their own, but we would also suggest that you or in our department, we guide the boys and sort of give them some suggestions of how to handle conflict when it arises among friends. I think so oftentimes we need to remind them that conflict is normal and it happens in every friendship, and if you can get through it, you're going to strengthen that friendship. But we also tell the boys that sometimes the friendship has to end, and maybe there's a conflict that arises and they just can't move forward, and that's okay too. And we talk to them about kind of learning through that situation. Sometimes we mediate with the students, and we talked a little bit about this at one of our last coffees, but if there is a conflict that they need us to kind of help them and encourage them and help them communicate with each other, we'll do that in a group setting within our offices. And just, we find that so many times any issues that arise within friendships all comes down to sort of this miscommunication somewhere. You know, someone misread a situation or a tone of voice or a statement that was made, and so the intent was misread. And we need to kind of just help the boys communicate with each other to figure that out and pinpoint that. And so again, that's all very typical, and that's all them sort of growing and developing these skills. Students need to learn how to listen to their friends. That's really crucial at this age. And so we would suggest, practice that at home. Have them listen to you, talk about your own friendships and what makes them effective. They need to learn how to sort of give that space and that time to someone else to voice their own opinion. Talk to them about that nonverbal communication and body language. Even if you're watching a show and you might say, wow, that character is really saying one thing, but acting in a very different way. What's that about? May sound kind of silly, but again, they are at an age where they're just starting to recognize us and you. And so talking through that can be really helpful. Helping them to do that problem solving and conflict resolution is good. Giving them advice, not solving a conflict for them, but giving them advice on what they can say and how to communicate to another individual. And then I would suggest you monitor kind of how your son is interacting with their peers. Maybe if you are taking that lengthy drive to a town 10 towns away for sort of a meetup, and you have two boys in your back seat, and oftentimes they forget you're there and they kind of keep on with their banter and chit chat. And so sort of listen and pick up on, are there things that one individual is not sort of reading correctly? Is your son missing something? There's jokes happening, something's going on and it's going over his head. What is that? And again, maybe we can sort of pinpoint if there's sort of a lack in one sort of skill set. And lastly, really just, talk about friendship. We do this a lot in our advisory program too. So they're just starting to identify what is a friend, what makes a good friend. And have those conversations at home. What do you think a good friendship consists of? Are you a good friend to the guys you hang out with? Those questions are really important for them to kind of self-reflect. And then remind them again that it is okay that friendships do end and maybe they're leaving some of their friends. At this point, when they all came in September and they met a lot of guys and they were trying to figure each other out, they may have sat at one lunch table, but then they found some common interest with others. Maybe they decided to change lunch tables. That's all, again, very normal. But I think they need to be reminded that, the guy you sat next to in September doesn't have to be your lifelong friend. We're all going to get along and be kind to one another, but you might start to branch out, and that's okay. And so I think they need to be told that a few times because it holds them back sometimes when they feel that, I don't want to upset someone here and move over this way. But again, there's just a lot of that happening at this point in time. Very normal. And so in the guidance office, we do a lot to just encourage them to get involved because I said that's where they're going to have all that face-to-face contact. And Mr. Hamlet said there's so many opportunities during the school day to do that. But we also are pretty good, I think, at recognizing if someone is struggling with it. We're in the classrooms, we're in the lunchroom, almost every day, I would say. At recess, we're kind of watching and just doing a lot of observation at this point. And so we can see if they're struggling maybe, or if we think, gosh, there was a nice little group of buddies and it seems that one of them sort of separated that way, or maybe we could just check in with them. And so we're constantly doing that, but please, if you feel that there's some issue that you're aware of, contact me, let us know. We're happy to check in with the students, maybe loop in the advisor to get them to sort of help the guys get more involved here. And again, I think Mr. Ghost is going to talk a lot about what's available at this point in time. And then I'll jump back in and give you a few other pieces.
Another thing, we have dance tonight. Third dance of the year, I think? 7 to 9. It's a nice opportunity. It's really not, we have the dances, yes, it's nice for the guys to meet some girls and socialize with them and love to find out, try to figure out some more ways to socialize with a wonderful thing in the spring Palooza. But really, it's about getting the boys together. And somewhat, having the girls there just creates awkward situations that help the boys to actually bond with each other. So it's a nice way, and a lot of them don't want to go, and if he's on the edge and you can get him to come, that's great. It's a nice way for them to make friendships. A lot of guys also will do, it's also an opportunity, again, doesn't have to be this one in the future, for like a sleepover afterwards. So because I do see a lot of the dances, you see one car picking up 3 or 4 guys, and maybe have sometimes some guys coming in and they've got a sleeping bag and a pillow or overnight bag and say, put this somewhere for the day or something like that. So there are some nice opportunities there. So just want to throw that out there. Opportunities, again, I mentioned earlier, how do boys make friends? They make friends by doing things. So it is our Dean of Students, and one of his big goals is really to work on those extracurricular activities. March is a particular month for that. So,
good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
So as you've heard today, we spoke about of course making friends and how they get to know one another. And one way they can do that is through our flex and our extracurricular program. Hopefully everybody grabbed these 2 sheets in the back, which I will get to in a second. But before I get into it, about this aspect of my job, I really enjoy it. I know many of you. Got a chance to get to know me. One part of my job, as Jen said, is to deal with discipline. So this other part of my job allows me to get to know the students in a different aspect. It makes me a little bit less scary to them, which I enjoy. And there are plenty of opportunities for students to sort of take the lead in helping to develop our extracurricular program and our flex program, which I'll get to in a moment. One thing that I have to say about our offerings here at BC High is that we have a very robust after-school and flex program. We have, as you can see on this sheet here, and this is just a collection of our full year offering. This sheet here is usually divided by season and their locations and things like that, a little more organized. But I just wanted to give you a quick sense of just the sheer number of things that we offer during the day. And the vast majorities happen during the flex period. So that's another great part about the Roubaix division is that the schedule by design encourages our students to try some of these things out. We have our flex period, which is 40 minutes during the day for students to experiment, try a new activity at club, and we're always encouraging them to do that. A lot of times for our students, they haven't had many opportunities to try a lot of these things, so they don't know if they enjoy it or not. So that's the other important piece to getting them to try and sort of step out of their comfort zone and maybe pick up a new hobby or a newfound interest. As I mentioned earlier, students can also take a big lead in this process. They can start a club during the flex period if they have an interest or a hobby or something that they want to share with the rest of the community. As you can see here, all they have to do is write up a description of the club, get 10 signatures. They usually meet with me to discuss and go over logistics and things like that, who's going to be the moderator. And for the most part, unless it's an extreme or outlandish suggestion, most students can have their club. And that's a great way for students to sort of take ownership of that process. We had a student start an origami club the first time here, and they meet regularly in the art room. He has a group of students that meet on a regular basis with him, and it's really great to see. Think about that as you think about some of the interests that you know your sons have, and if they want to share that with the rest of the community, that's one great way that they can do that. Throughout the year, there are various times where we're not in season for sports. This happens to be one of them. During the month of March, we're in between winter and spring sports. We refer to this time of the year for the next 3 weeks as March Madness. Sort of piggybacking off the actual March Madness tournament, and we sort of step up our efforts to offer activities after school for students because there isn't much going on. Most students, or in fact all students in Roubaix, have that time free. And so we really want to challenge and encourage them, and in some cases incentivize them to try some of these different activities. I know for myself, I run a bowling club. We go to Boston Bowl at least once a month. I've done ping pong, paper plane competition, so I'm heavily involved in this as well. We usually have prizes, daily prizes, prizes for overall participation, for the homeroom or for individuals. So there's lots of ways that we encourage students to get involved during this time of the year. As you can see here on the sheet, we listed it out by day of what we're having. This is subject to change, of course. Things can sort of come and go, but for the most part, this is what we are going to be looking forward to for the next 3 weeks. I think spring sports starts on April 2nd, as you can see, so until we get to that point, I ask you to encourage your sons to stick around and not necessarily, get out of Dodge right at 2:35. There's a lot of things going on here, lots of prizes for them. Edible prizes, candy is usually a winner to get them to get involved. So take a look at this sheet here. And one thing I want to say too is all this information can be found on the website under the parent and student resources page. And this list here is, as I mentioned, is divided by season. And you'll be able to see what is offered during the day and also after school. So if you want to take a look at that for the spring, please go ahead and do that, and then make sure to talk to your sons, get them involved. March is a big time for that. And if you have any questions about our offerings, please don't hesitate to ask. And hopefully we'll be seeing your sons throughout the month of March and the rest of the year. Yes?
Do they have to sign up for each of these things? Like
Great question.
At the end of the class?
Yes, so aside from bowling, everything is free, there's no cost, and also there is no requirement for participation, so they can drop in any time. Obviously, we want them to come on a regular basis if possible, but we want them to try new things, have they don't like it, and that's okay. They can try something else. Some activities like cooking, for example, are limited, and that's just because of space. It's hard to cook 40 kids, so I think that's usually capped around 15, and so if there are caps, there's usually a sign-up sheet which is announced, and students can sign up, and it's open to everybody.
Of course, you're going to encourage them to try these things, I'm sure, but definitely keep in mind that it's so hard for them at this age to just walk into an activity alone, right? So they need to either go with a buddy, or they need to know someone maybe in the room already, or maybe just get a personal invitation from the proctor, a faculty member, or maybe their advisor, a gentle nudge. So we do a lot of that, daily here, and just let us know. Certainly keep encouraging them to try new things, but let us know if you think they need a little bit more of that push. We held an activity fair in January, so we sort of started to advertise a lot of what was happening for the remainder of the year. All the boys attended that activity fair. They went around and talked to faculty members about their groups, and then we actually asked them to indicate on a piece of paper 2 activities that they're sort of interested in trying. The advisors all have those sheets of paper, and so they've been, again, trying to sort of gently nudge, check back in, and see if there's been any progress there, if your boys have truly tried something and gone out of their comfort zone and done that. The other thing we can do is if we think, your son is going to try something but is a little hesitant, maybe I could let that moderator know ahead of time, and maybe they could just make sure that there's an extra warm, welcoming environment that day for him to join in. Because again, there's guys popping in and out of these things every week, so there's not always just a consistent group. There's new students that join all the time. I run the chess club, and sometimes as the guys are just, there's not much I really need to do, they're kind of like starting their games in the room, and I can be out in the hallway, and I often just catch some students that are kind of looking around almost, you know they want to do something, but they need that extra something. So I'm out in the hall, hey guys, come on in, why don't you play chess, why don't you play with him? So we're always trying to do that. We can connect them with an 8th grader too. Maybe there's a great sort of role model, an 8th grader that's involved in something that we can introduce them to and have them give them that extra push. And in homeroom too, we're always sort of saying, we'll read the announcements, so we'll say, hey, there's Model Railroad Club today and Model UN, and who's doing that? Anyone going to this today? And maybe just by a show of hands or just by your son seeing, oh, okay, a lot of guys are going to try that. I'm more comfortable now maybe walking in that door. So again, we'll work as a team, keep us informed, we'll try to keep you informed, and just know that we're always sort of doing that encouragement. But also I want to remind you, as Mr. Handler said, it can be an exhausting day for these guys, full of social interactions from 6 a.m. to 2:30. So if your guy is just coming home after the bell and kind of tired and needing that space, that's okay too. And truly, 7th grade is a transition year. We're not overly concerned if they're not super involved yet. They will get there. But just know we're doing everything we can to assist them.
There will be frustrating times when you've got your son all excited to try X club after school. He's going to do it. Finally, you're feeling pretty good about that. And, the teacher who runs that club was sick that day and the club doesn't happen. Or, Wednesday afternoon we canceled after school activities. Or, we had an issue earlier this year where we have some high school students in the Model UN in the high school who run the 7th, 8th grade Model UN, and they were doing it in a room over in the Walsh building. And then one week, I guess, they decided to move it back over to the high school, but they didn't let me know. So kids were saying, where's Model UN? I was like, oh, it's in 104. And they're going, we're in 104. And we didn't know where. It's not always as smooth as I would like it to be. So just keep that in mind. I'm sure it causes frustration at times. But we have had some parents, try to organize some things in the past. I know the Mothers Guild often does a mother-son thing for Lupe. Anyone here has seen the Mothers Guild? I know they've done bowling in the past. I'm not sure what sometimes that's planned. And sometimes more on a very much local level. I remember when, some years, someone on the, like say, some parents might get together and say, hey, why don't we all just meet at X movie theater on Friday night and see who shows up or something like that. So those are some things that parents have also done separate from what the school is doing. You probably are aware that our homerooms, to some extent, have some geographic groupings to them, only in the sense of that the boys who come from sort of underrepresented geographic areas. So, we want to make sure if a boy is here from, say, Weston, that he's in a homeroom with, there's nobody else from Weston here, but he's in a homeroom with maybe some boys from Elkdale, Waltham, Needham, some places out there. We have, the sort of north of the city homeroom, the sort of Kingston, Plymouth area, the sort of Bridgewater, that area of Walpole, etc. So we try to do that with the 7th grade, just so if a boy is the only boy from his town, someone else in the homeroom at least knows where that town is or has heard of that town. Then we have other places where we're trying to split up. If we have 20 kids from Milton, we obviously don't want them all in the same homeroom, so we split those guys up. Spring-a-Palooza, great question. We may have to change the date because it may be the same date. It should be in early May sometime. It's similar to the event we had in the fall for the 10th anniversary, which is, bubble soccer and ice cream sundaes and bouncy house, but we invite the girls' schools as well. So it's probably my favorite event of the year. It's just a nice event. They come in, they have fun. It's a social, but it's not a dance. And I think for a lot of guys, that's a great idea. We pretty much, in this room we have video games on the big screen. We have board games set up on tables with an ice cream sundae bar out there. In that gym, I think is the bouncy house in the front of the big gym, the bubble soccer or whatever we have for that event. But it's good. It's a lot of fun. Guys have a good time. Appreciate you all coming in this morning. Hope you get an opportunity to talk to each other as well.